Hi everyone, it is Tony here from Custom PCs Australia. Today we're going to do something a little different and show you a computer a customer brought in. He was having quite a few issues with constant blue screens and running so slowly that it was almost unusable. He'd taken it to another local repairer. They told him it was a faulty hard drive. They then cloned his drive to another mechanical drive, which I'm really not sure why they would do that. However, that's what happened. Sure enough, the same issues presented. After doing a little checking, I could see that disk usage was hovering around 90 to 100%. BIOS would also not detect any populated SATA ports. The system was approximately 8 years old, running an Intel Core i7-8700, 32GB of DDR4 RAM at 2666Hz, a Z370E motherboard, an NVIDIA Quadro N510 and a 2TB mechanical drive. The case was rather interesting. It's an InWin Maelstrom full ATX case. Would have been a decent case in its day, but missing a lot of today's conveniences, such as cable management routing. The case I/O had some interesting features, including 4 USB and 2 SATA ports. The customer was pretty insistent on keeping this case, so we had to work with what we had. My recommendation was to upgrade the motherboard, as there appeared to be issues with the SATA ports and the USB headers. The fan headers in BIOS also appeared unable to control voltage to the fans, meaning this system was also incredibly loud. Given its age and the customer's workload, which was mainly for CAD work, the customer agreed to the following upgrades to his PC. We went with a B760 Gaming X motherboard, an Intel Core i7-14700F, 32GB of DDR5 RAM at 5200Hz, and a 1TB NVMe SSD. As well as a new power supply. So I got to work removing the components that were no longer needed. There was a large tangle of cables everywhere. Semi-understandable given that there is absolutely no cable routing in this case. Other than that, it was a straightforward process to remove the components. The only slight difficulty we had was with the power supply bracket, which had rusted, making it pretty hard to get off. Next up, we installed the new components on the motherboard. We used a Deepcool AK400 on the CPU, which is 10 times better than the stock cooler on the i7. Impressively, it keeps this chip running at just under 30 degrees at idle and under 60 degrees at full load. The Corsair Vengeance DDR5 RAM is very well priced at around 140 AUD and has always proven reliable for us. The Crucial P3 NVMe drive is a solid mid-range Gen 3 SSD capable of 3,500 MB per second read and write speeds, and can be picked up for around $85 AUD. The new power supply was a Corsair CX650, which was more power than required, however, we have left some headroom for future upgrades. From there, it was a matter of installing the motherboard and securing with screws. Once this was in, we then reconnected the audio cable, USB connectors and the front I/O connectors. We then installed the old Quadro GPU and USB PCIe card. This required a Molex connector. Upon first boot, the PC had literally no power at all. After a bit of troubleshooting involving a new power supply, removing the motherboard in case of a short, it was found that the case had a faulty USB header. Once this was unplugged, the PC booted as per normal. We then installed Windows 11 Pro. We installed all available Windows 11 updates. Unfortunately, the Quadro card was too old to work with GeForce Experience, so we had to manually install the older drivers. We then installed Gigabyte's Control Center to update all of the motherboard drivers. We then ran a series of benchmarks to test stability. This is how the PC looked after the new hardware installation. Not as tidy as we would have liked, but we were left with little option due to the case configuration. We also reconnected his Blu-ray drive, which had not worked previously. The Quadro 510 was super noisy. We attempted to repaste the card, but it failed to make a difference. This will be the next upgrade for the customer, I'm sure. As you can see, the PC is now running beautifully, with disk utilization at idle sitting between 0 and 2%. The PC is now running perfectly and ready for handover to the customer. We hope you've enjoyed a little peek into our day at Custom PCs Australia. We would love a like and follow if you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.